Yeah, good afternoon, distinguished members of the class. I can see just three of you. There are supposed to be six. I don't know whether there are individuals who are sharing screen. Um, I hope you've had a great week so far, and Nigeria has not dealt with you. Um, we'll continue we'll go back to our regular session today. uh, by considering archival and library research. So far, do you have any comments, queries, issues you want to clarify before we start today's class, particularly in regards to the last four sessions you have had? Are there comments you'd like to share? Are there issues that are bothering you that you'd like to share? Comments? Are we okay so far? Akonde, comments? Wasiu Amo, Jelila Fatai. Are you living in the dark ages? I can't see your face, Wasiu Amo. Your place is so dark. Can't see your face. Are you back in the sun? Okay, that's better. Akonde, your image is dark, and we're only seeing the head of Jelila Fatai. I don't know whether you don't know how to set your video. We can only see your head at a corner. That's Jelila Fatai DP. And I don't want to see your ceiling. Uh, I think that's better. Yeah. Okay. Are there people sharing screens with you? Is anybody sharing screen with you? Nobody. I can't seem to hear anybody speak. All your mics are muted. Okay. Any comments, questions, clarifications required on any of the sessions we've had so far?
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm listening.
I think my only comment is this, sir.
Yeah,
I think I
I'm
just need
listening.
to commend you for the last lecture, because I know properly, I know that that it's not easy to bring Professor Albert to come and give us kind of share his experience with us. I know he's a busy fellow, and for you to in fact, it take only a deep to call on to a deep. And last week, because I was so surprised to see Professor Albert, sharing his time more than 2 hours with us. It's not an easy thing, sir. So I think I must commend you for the effort, sir. And I think we are waiting for the second man. That's Professor Additional.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, these are colleagues of many years standing. So thank you for the kind observation and the commendation. So we're starting the class with three people, which is not good enough. It's not good enough at all. But I can't wait indefinitely for the class because time is going. We have a class of 2 hours. We're supposed to speak for about 1.5 hours, and share experiences and take comments. So let's try to, like we said, we're doing, we're looking at archival research, archival and library research. Okay. Can you still see me?
No, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Hey, I need to make some changes to my system. I'm not supposed to get any disturbance while this program is on. Yeah. Yeah, can you see me?
Yes, we can see you, sir.
Oh, yeah, I've seen the screen. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, we can see you and we can see the screen as well.
Okay, excellent. Now we're looking at archival research and libraries. Just a moment, let me put this one on slideshow. Yeah, okay. Are you okay? Yeah. Um, Give me a second, please. Okay. Now, we said we're looking at archival research and libraries. How do we use libraries? How do we use archives? What are archives? How do we use them for our work? As researchers, as historical researchers, you'll be one of the probably 5 or 7% who may not use archives, but that would be strange. Uh, Archives are integral to the work of an historical scholar. Just a moment. Yeah. Are you still seeing the screen?
No,
Hello?
sir.
I no longer seeing the screen. Okay.
Yes, sir. We can't see the
Okay.
screen.
Can't see the screen. Okay. Uh, get back to
We
it
can
in
see you
minutes.
now.
I need to make some adjustments. Um, Okay, let's continue. So today, our objectives in this session, one, to define archival research and understand its importance, its significance in historical studies. Why is it important? What actually is archival research? What are archives? Then we should be able to identify different types of archives and archival materials. When we're talking about archives, do we have just one single type of archive? Are there different types of archives, and what, in your own understanding, um, just a moment. I need to make some adjustments. I need to make some adjustments in a minute. Okay, that's one. Just give me a few seconds. Okay, so what are different types of archives and archival materials? And then, more importantly, we look at understanding the methodologies for conducting effective archival research. How do we go about it? How do we achieve great results if you are going to do archival research? Then, what are the challenges in archival research? And then, more importantly, what are the strategies for overcoming them? Every form of method has its own challenges, has its own implications. There are things that you encounter on the field, and it's better you prepare for them mentally. Once you understand the methodologies, then you know you are on the way to addressing the challenges. Then, finally, we look at libraries. I don't need to tell you, that libraries are very critical to research, not least to historical research. How do we navigate library resources? What is the overlap between libraries and archives? All of these are things we're going to ask ourselves and discuss. Please, at any time, please feel free to raise your comments with me. Just a moment again, please. So today we look at, this is the session for today, the introductory remarks, which we've done, then look at archives and archival research. Then we look at the types of archives and archival materials, methodological issues in archival research, challenges and limitations of archival research, then how do you use libraries for historical research, then ethical considerations in archival and library research. What are the ethical issues that you are likely to confront? And what are the ethical issues you are supposed to deal with? What are the ethics of this job when you are using archives? I'm sure some of you have used archives before. Wasiu, I think you have used archives before many times, right? Chiforo Lugwagwe, have you used the archive before? You are shaking your head.
Yes, sir. Very well, sir.
So everything we are saying today is, I want you to be able to, one, share experience as well, what you have gone through in terms of the use of archives, the challenges you've had, to be able to share with the others. Now, first question, what are archives? Do we have texts? Does anybody want to comment on that? What are archives?
Can I talk, sir?
Yes, please. But turn on your video so that I can see you.
Can I continue, sir?
Who wants to speak? Is that Akande or Chief Oranugwagwe?
That's Akande, sir.
Sir.
Akande, please go ahead.
Is Akande, sir?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
I think, to my understanding, I think archives are organized collections of historical documents or records or other materials that are preserved for a long-time use.
organized collection.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
That
Document.
word organized is very important.
Okay, sir.
Organized collection, not just random assemblage of materials. It could be random assemblage, but when you get to the archives, there's got to be some organization to those materials so that when you want to use it, you know where to go, you know what is available. But if it's not organized and you go to the NAI in Ibadan, you see materials on Ijesha province, next to that of Kaduna province, you begin to wonder, are these people organized? Okay. Organized collection of materials. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other comments? Any other definition?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Show your.
Yes. Yes, sir. Well, I think archives can be described as a place where historical documents and records are kept that may provide information about either a place, institution, or a group of people.
That may provide
So,
information either about a place or institution or people.
institution
Okay.
or a group of people.
Excellent. 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 Okay. So it provides information about a place, an institution, or people.
Hello,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah.
Wasiu Amo, sir.
Yeah. Go ahead.
In the word of late Professor Kenneth Oundike, being there, according to him, he said, as at the time when they are having challenges of either African have history or Africa does not have history, or people without document, we cannot classify the society as being a society with history. He now said that is the reason why they have the idea of, hello?
Yeah. Idea of what?
He said that's the reason why they decided, because he was one of the founders of the National Archive in Ibadan. He said that's the reason why they decided to collect the document of institutions, the document of other family, some individual family may be even decided willingly to tender some of their family documents to them. Because for instance now, if you get to, let's assume that maybe in the University of Ibadan library, they have, a section for the library, and the topmost floor, they also have archive. For instance, in that particular place, that is where we can see the document of Bishop Akinyele, the first indigenous bishop of Ibadan diocese. That is where we can also see the document of, Reverend Williams and others, including the papers of Abat Macaulay. According to him, collecting this document together will, aid historian in the writing and the reconstruction of the past. So that is what I can deduce from what he said in his own write-up, sir.
So you are actually getting us a level higher of how we actually started the process of getting archives in the country. Because the consciousness of the need to reconstruct our history based on the prejudice statements of the white man that we have no history gave us that urgency that we must start putting together the materials. And like you said, there are several collections that are individual hands, individual holdings. There are people who have held positions in the past. There are individuals who have been in office and in government who generated documents that will be useful in reconstructing the history of the nation, or reconstructing the history of a group, or reconstructing even the history of a company. Take, for instance, the Royal Niger Company is a whole country that is a company that affected the history of this country. Just one, what do you call it? One company. And there are people like that. Companies like Cadbury, companies like USC, companies like, what's their name? These people doing margarine. All of them have archives that will give us an understanding of the economic history of Nigeria. So it's not just enough to, when you go to the CMS, again, these are all individual holdings. These are holdings that relate to either individual, like you said, or company, like you said, or a group of people, or even a nation, a state, a country. We have materials. So let's quickly go through the. So archives are collections of historical documents that we said preserved for research. Preserved for research. But that's part of our problem in the country, the preservation. We'll come to it eventually. And then, what are the types of archives? We've mentioned that there are national archives, that is the one that is owned by, the one that is set up by the government to address critically the documentation of forts, the documentation of the history of the nation. How did we get to where we are? Okay, unfortunately, our archives are just a disgrace. So the National Archives could be there. There's the National Archives of Nigeria, there are three of them, one in Ibadan, one in Enugu, and one in Kaduna. There are National Archives in other countries, that of Sierra Leone, that of Ghana. I've used the National Archives of Canada before, that's in Ottawa. So there are National Archives everywhere, of course, in UK. Every country that has a sense of direction will have an archive. Then there are institutional archives, like universities, religious bodies, the CMS, the Church Missionary Society. They have a major archive in Oxford. Okay, the Baptists, they have major archives. Universities, I mean, as someone just said it, that UI, the whole floor is dedicated to archive of national documents. Again, OAU Library, there's a section that is dedicated to archives with original documents. Okay, so the archives could be that of the government, could be national, could be that of state. There are state governments that are establishing their own archives. Okay, to get records related specifically to that state. Then there are special collections. I mentioned the USA, mentioned some pharmaceutical companies, some commercial companies, all have their own archives of their own records. They do it not because they are competing with the government, but to generate and keep a record so that we all know where we are coming from. There are personal archives and there are individual, what do you call it, family archives. There are families with their own archive. There are individuals with archives. I have some personal materials relating to the establishment of Osun State University. At the right time, I'm going to deposit them at the library of Osun State University. I already sending my books to their library there. They have a Shola Akinrade library in the university. And the documents related to the establishment of that university, the first 5 years, the original documents that are with me, because I'm not too sure of how much they preserve those documents. The ones with me, I'm going to send them to the archives, into the library, to create an archive for the library. I'll be discussing with their librarian as soon as I get back to Nigeria, because already agreed I'm going to transfer some of my documents there. So there are personal collections that could be vital for understanding particular organizations or institutions or establishments. There are personal collections, like maybe you are a governor, you have your collection of materials. So if you want to write the history of your state during a particular period, we can revert to you to come and see what you can get from your personal collections. Of course, there are digital archives, there are online archives, all of which make a lot of difference. There are various archives everywhere. There is the National Archives in Ibadan, there's one in Kaduna, there's one in Enugu. These are the national archives. There are institutional archives that are that of Ahmadu Bello, that of University of Ibadan, and that of OAU. I don't know how serious we were, because there was a time the university administration asked the Department of History to lead the process of creating an archive for the OAU, working with the library. I don't know how successful they were, but you are in the archives of the department and you know what that tells you, that it's just the issue has not been properly addressed. OAU should have, they have archives, they have materials in the library, but in terms of systematic documentation of our existence as a university, I'm not too sure of how far we've gone. There are archives in other West African countries that we want to use depending on the kind of research you're doing. The National Archives of Ghana, that of Sierra Leone, that of South Africa, is extensive. They have archives in Pretoria, they have in Cape Town. And again, you can only understand that in the context of how the country is governed, because the parliament, the government is in Cape Town, the parliament is in Cape Town, the executive is in Pretoria. So they have archives in Pretoria, they have archives in Cape Town. Then there are digital archives, international ones, and those are very good for you because you can do that. You can access them from the comfort of your bedroom, or the comfort of your phone, on the comfort of your office, wherever you are. And what I tell students is, if a lecturer tells me he wants to move my class online, it's good, because I don't have to go physically to the university to take my lectures. I'll just say where I am. The same thing with digital archives, with online archives. With online archives, you can access the materials from anywhere in the world. So you may need a passcode. So you may need a digital access code. But there's UNESCO Digital Archives, Digital Library. There's also the British Library Archives. So all of this are available for you online. Question for you. Can you cite examples of archival materials? Consider archival material. What are the kind of things you find in an archive? Some of you have used the archive before. What are some of the things you find in an archive? Okay.
Sir?
Yeah.
Can I talk, sir?
Yeah.
Yes, I think letters.
Letters, yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir. Government
Who generates
records.
letters?
I think, I'm not sure, maybe the journalist or...
Letters? Now, letters are critical because they are personal experiences. If I write a letter to you, there are letters between parents and their children. There are letters between government officials and lower level officials. There are letters that are generated between officials of government, correspondence. So correspondence are official documents as well. So you are right, letters are official document, are archival documents. Letters could be private, personal, and letters could be official. Okay. When the president writes to the president of Senate, transmitting the budget, when it gets to the archives, is an archival material for us. It's a letter, but it's an official document of transmission. Okay. Yes, letters. What are the other ones?
Government records.
Government records, like what?
Photograph.
Like what you said now, like the budgets.
Yeah.
Yes. Those are government records, sir.
The budgets are supposed to be there. National development plans, quite a number of other items. Government records, even the correspondence of government ought to be there. Minutes of meetings. You have the executive council meeting, the federal executive council meeting of the country. They are supposed to give us, what do you call it? They are supposed to give us a record of how those things were kept. The minutes of meetings of the Federal Executive Council, of the State Executive Council, the Ansad of Parliament, all are records of government. Yes, what are the other things you think you see there?
Hello, sir.
Yes. Photographs. I'm not sure about photographs. Maybe as part of
photographs are part of archival records. Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm on the line.
Yeah, continue. Yeah.
some of the write-up, either consciously or unconsciously write-up of some of our colonial officers, like the district officers, like some of them, trying to gather intelligent information and reporting back to their own country, the letters and the document and even the some of their jottings. Apart from that, the missionaries too have their own letters or correspondence. For instance, I could remember that while we were hello sir.
Yeah, I'm listening to you.
I could remember that while we were doing research on the the writing of St. James's Cathedral, the 100 years of the St. James's Cathedral, we stumbled on a document written by Reverend Indra, who happened to be the first missionary to venture in Ibadan here, trying to document his experience and some of the things he encountered while coming to Ibadan from Abeokuta, and how the people of Ibadan were behaving, the kind of structure in Ibadan, the kind of road network and other things, including the way the culture of some of the things that he was able to. In fact, according to him, while writing in that particular document, that is why the Ibadan people corrupted a place called Kudeti. He was referring to that place because that place is very close to where he lived. He now said this place is too dirty, and Ibadan people corrupted it to Kudeti. So these are kind of the things that the archivers try to like document for we historians that want to reconstruct the past. Then we go there. In fact, in the archive here we have we have a prof document, which is more or less like the document of the provincial officers documented, sir.
So intelligence reports,
Yes,
provincial
sir.
officers report, district officers report, these are all government reports. These are colonial
Missionary
reports.
reports.
Yeah. All of these are examples of materials you can find in an archive. Yes, any other one? Yes, any other material that you think? Let's go on. Now, we mentioned government records. This could include the census data. Nobody mentioned that. Annual budgets. These are things that are likely, are possibly in the archives. Development plans, which are supposed to be for 4 years. Unfortunately, I can't remember the last time we took our development plan seriously in Nigeria. Treaties, government treaties with other nations, boundary agreements, administrative reports, all of these are things that you can find in an archive. Personal papers, letters, diaries, autobiographies. Letters and diaries, we've mentioned letters, nobody mentioned diaries, but these are also things that you can find there. Then organizational records, business record, religious political groups. A political party, like if you want to write the history of the aborted Babangida Republic of 1990 to 1992, the history of the Social Democratic Party, the NRC, and all those parties at that time, I don't know whether anybody has archived the materials from that era. We saw the government building offices for political parties in all local governments in the country. One for NRC, one for SDP. They were converted to other things. But it's looking at the implications for history of how they wasted our resources and thwarted the democratic process in the country. But we should be able to get materials on this from the archives. Political parties, political groups, these are things that you can find. The MPN, the UPN, the Action Group, all of them, they are records. I don't know how many of you do know the late Professor Arifalo. Professor Arifalo was my teacher in Ife. After I retired, he went to Adekunle Ajasin University. Actually, that was when he became a professor eventually. Falo wrote his PhD thesis on Egbe Omoduduwa. Of course, he will need the archives, the government archives, and will need the case of the party. And he had to use the archives of Chief Obafemi himself. So there are things that we can do as historians. Then, of course, newspapers, photographs. Somebody mentioned photographs, maps, oral history recordings. All of these are things that can be found in a proper archive. Now, I first followed the inauguration of President Trump when he renamed the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. Now I first remember the process. Hello?
Hi, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. I first followed the process when the president said he renamed the Gulf of Mexico as Gulf of America. What do you think is the implication of that for history? Do you, or you don't think there's any implication? Or you don't follow international affairs? Egbami. What are the implications? The implications of the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
I think.
Wait.
Hello.
Let speak first.
Okay.
Sir, I just rejoined the class because I was shut out somehow. So I didn't know where you came from.
Okay. Amo, what are the implications of the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico?
I think what Donald Trump is trying to do is more or less like trying to revisit the American philosophy of manifest destiny, which has been their philosophy, that they believe that all apart from Europe, the country around North and South America should be more or less like the American fully in charge of everything that they are fear of that continent. That is the way I look at it, sir.
Now, if you pick a map of the North American hemisphere, North and South America, the Gulf is the divide between Mexico and the United States. If you pick a Google map now of the region, what you will see is Gulf of America. But if you get the same region, the map from Mexico, what you will see is what? Gulf of Mexico. If you get to the archives, you can trace the origins of the renaming or the naming of geographical landmarks. So it's not just enough to take a document and not try to interrogate how it came to be. When the Mexican president said, okay, you want to rename the Gulf of Mexico, then we are going to rename American continent itself as Mexican Americana. That shouldn't, what we call the United States of America is an extension of Mexico. So it depends on whose map you are looking at. But when you get to the archives, you can trace all these things, but then also note the political implications, the political correctness of some of the documents. Let's go on. What is archival research? Okay, of course, very simple definition: the use of archival collections to analyze past events. Some of you have done that before. Some are engaging in archival research now. Everybody, one way or the other, they are getting involved in the archival work. Now, what is the importance? And this is part of where we're going. What is the importance of archival research? Okay, I have that number one, preservation of historical memory. Because if, God forbid, there have been a fire incident in an archive, it's more likely that an individual will lose his records than a national archive will lose the same records. It's more likely that a national archives can preserve a document better than individuals. I don't know whether I'm making sense to you. That if you want to preserve your documents,
yes,
history,
you are, sir. For the exception of the National Archive bonds both in
with the exception of
I said, with the exception of the National Archives that have bonds both in France and in Germany.
yes. And then in the, what do you call it? In the Middle East, there were archives that were destroyed. There were archives that were destroyed during
as a result
wars.
of the war.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. As a result of the war.
And the truth is, it's a lot of loss to humanity.
Yes, sir. That cannot be recovered.
It's easier to preserve the records if they're deposited in an archive which are properly managed. What that means is that sometimes you have to travel to particular locations to access the archives, especially if they have not placed those documents online. Archives also provide primary sources for historical interpretation. Most materials you will find in an archive will be regarded as primary sources because they are documents, they are materials that are generated, original documents, original materials generated, unlike the works of interpretation that are called books. Then research support authenticity and credibility of historical writing. You can authenticate your material, your study, by reference to the archives. The credibility of your source is more likely to be received, to be accepted, if you can cite original archival materials. There are some dangers, we'll come to that at some point, of material that are deliberately created to distort history. There are government officials that generate documents which are not factual or which distort the truth. And by the time they are being collected, nobody had an eye on history. But by the time they are lumped together as government records for that period, you that is using it in 10 years, in 50 years' time, may not know how it has come about. So let's look at methodologies in archival research. We do with time, self. Oh, we wasted so much time today. Okay. Methodologies in archival research. Now, the first thing is, if you want to use the archives, you must prepare before you go. There are some things you do as preparatory steps so that your visit to the archives can be meaningful. Okay? Let me ask, what do you think are the steps you should take before you go to the archives? Before you start archival research? What do you think are the steps you should take? Hello?
Sir,
Yeah, what are the steps you should take?
I think locating relevant archives should be the number one, because we should know the type of archives to visit for our research.
Okay.
Are you with me, sir?
Yeah, I'm with you. You said locating the right archives, but something will
Yeah.
define the right archives.
That should be the topic, sir.
That should be the topic, but it's deeper than that.
Okay.
What are the things you should do before you go to the archives? You're on the right step. We'll get to it in a minute. Already, I had it on the screen, but I just scrolled it off.
Okay.
Yeah. Amo, what should be the preliminary steps we should take as researchers?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, please talk.
Yes, we could hear you.
I think the first thing is, you need to set your priority right. That is your objective. For instance, now, if you are writing something on, let's assume that you are writing something on maybe on Egba, you cannot decide to now go to Kaduna archive, be looking for source documents there. But if you are writing something on Egba and we have National Archive in Ibadan, which they are likely to drop some of the documents of maybe the missionaries or even the district officer record, and even some of their the actors, their diaries. That is the first thing. The second one is your topic. Your topic also matters while going into the archive, and the questions of objective and target.
What are the issues you want to engage with in your research? Okay, so the first thing is to define your research objectives. What am I really working on? It's not the archives that will define it for you. It's your research objectives that will define what you are going to look for in the archive. Are we together?
Yes,
That
sir.
is the first thing is what you are looking for. What is the objective of your research? And what are the materials that will support those objectives? Okay? So when you have defined your research objectives, then you now have to identify the relevant archives and collections. That's why I said you are jumping the gun by saying you want to identify the archives your research objectives, your topic, your theme, the things you want to do will determine the archives that is relevant to your research. Am I making sense to you? Then
Yes, sir.
before you go to the archives, it's better for you to understand the access policies and restrictions of that archive. Know what materials are available, for which era, for which period, for which geographical area. Know the restrictions. Some documents are under the 25-year rule. Some documents are under the 50-year rule. Some documents are under the 75-year rule. And some of these documents are released periodically. So if you are going to the archives to study the independence movement in Nigeria between 1956 and 1960, for instance, you know that by 2025, we're already 64 years post-independence. So those documents should be available for you now. But if you want to write the history of the Second Republic, 1979 to 1983, and there are documents that are under the 50-year rule, not the 25-year rule, they still have a couple of months to wait. So if you carry your leg to go to Ibadan, Kaduna, to write about the crisis of 1983 elections, hoping to get materials that are under embargo, you are wasting your time. You might as well go to the newspaper archives and begin to collect to get what you want. But if you want to look at speeches of governors and government and other things, you may. So you need to understand the access policies. You need to understand the restrictions on the documents you want to look at. You need also to understand what can you photocopy and what can you not photocopy. Most of them, you're not allowed to photocopy. And when you're allowed to photocopy, it's so expensive. So you have to get your money ready for the process of making copies of the documents you want to get. Some they don't allow you to photocopy at all. Then you have to make yourself ready to how to access those materials. So before you go to the archives at all, part of your preparation will be one, define your research objectives. What am I looking for? What are the materials that will support what I'm looking for? What am I trying to achieve in this research? You want to rewrite the history of your community? Yes. So you know what exactly the material that will support your thing. And then what are the archives that you can get the thing you're asking for? Somebody said you can't be writing on Egba history and be going to Enugu archive. But you see, it also depends on what you are writing in Egba history. If it's Egba outreach, maybe the Igbo community in Egba land, okay? The emergence of Igbo community in southwestern Nigeria or the emergence of Igbo community in Kaduna, you don't limit yourself to Kaduna. You have to go to other areas to see what has happened. So sometimes you have to go beyond your narrow confines of the definition of what is good for you. Now, you have prepared yourself to go to the archives. How do you conduct the research? One, the process is very simple. Locate the catalogs, locate the materials, you have to locate and access the materials you are looking for. You people keep getting thrown out of this meeting. I feel sorry for you. Yeah. When you are conducting the research, the first thing is to locate and access the archival materials. Of course, you have to look the finding aids in the archives, the catalogs, the inventories. Then, how do you take notes? Digitizing and organizing your documents. These are ways, because sometimes, many times they don't allow you to photocopy. So what do you do? If you're not allowed to photocopy, what do you do? Yeah? If you are in the archives in Ibadan and you can't photocopy, what are you supposed to do?
Can take pictures.
If they don't allow you to bring your phone or camera, what happens?
Maybe you have to tip them to do that.
Eh?
You can tip them to do that, sir. Just to get our source.
You can tip them.
Yeah.
Can you use the correct word? Bribe them, right? You see?
Yes, I don't want to use bribe. That's why I said tip, sir.
But what I said is bribe. We are going to get to ethical implications, ethical considerations in archival research. When the archive says you can't photocopy this document, there's a reason. And if you photocopy the document, technically you cannot cite it because it was done against the policy of the organization. So if you get a material illegally, it becomes difficult for you to cite it. Am I communicating? So you have to be careful.
Yes, sir, but my network is
respond.
breaking.
Hello?
Yes, we are here, sir.
We are here, sir.
Hello, sir.
So how do you deal with a material that was illegally acquired? How do you cite it? That's the question. How do you cite a material that's illegally acquired? Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Please come again with the question, sir.
Your colleague, Akane, said if they don't allow you to photocopy, you want to take a picture of it, right? But they don't allow you to bring your camera inside. So what do you do? And he said you can tip the official to allow you to do. But discussing practical issues, so because these are things you face on the field.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And he says you can tip the official, which most people do, or many people do. and those
Yes,
ones will
sir.
close their eyes to your photocopy. But if you generate a material illegally, how do you undo it at the point of writing up your thesis or writing up your work?
Sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
This may make me to remember something that happened between, I think maybe a couple of 7 years ago, sir.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
I think the man you bought last week, that's Professor Albert. He has a colleague, also in the Institute of African Studies. We call him Professor Olaoba. I don't know if
Okay.
if you can recollect the name of the man. He said something before he died. And according to him, he said even in that community before he died, he dare not go to that community because of what he did. Are you following me, sir?
Yeah, continue.
He said there was a time whereby they need there was the issue of a land come up between two communities, and the archival materials of that land is in the National Archive. And while he is trying to write something, he decided to cite that particular document. But when the other party, when they are, when the case is in the court and they want to bring an evidence, the other party who knows that they don't really have strong case, they decided to go and buckle on by bribe or one thing or the other, bribe the people in the archive and remove that document. But whereas in his own write-up, he has that original document which he has already cited in his own write-up. So why why they were going on, the case of what you are saying now is what I'm trying to buttress. When they now got to the state of giving judgment, the lawyers of the party who have already manipulated the process were saying that the National Archive, if it is true that the man got the document for the National Archive, the National Archive ought to have stamped the document showing that the originality of that document is coming from them.
These are issues because if you obtain a material illegally,
yes, sir,
it becomes difficult for you to cite it in your thesis. You can summarize the content, that is to the extent of what is available in the public space. But to cite an illegally obtained material is an ethical issue. So you have to be careful how you obtain materials within the archives, because you may obtain material you cannot use. If you now photocopy, you cannot attach that photocopy as an appendix in your work because it was illegally obtained. So what do you do if you cannot photocopy, you cannot take pictures of materials? What do you do?
It's a big question.
No, it's not big. Imagine yourself going to the archives in Ibadan. They told you cannot photocopy. What do you do?
I think, hello, sir.
Yeah.
I think one of our lecturers also in OAU, he shared that's Professor Oguyemi. He shared a story with us on why writing his PhD thesis on Nigerian economic history and maybe on civil war economy or whatever. He now told us something. He said when he got to the ministry to get the document, they refused to release the document to him. But he now decided to go to Chief Obafemi Awolowo Library in Ikenne. He said on the process of checking Chief Obafemi Awolowo diary, he saw some of those facts and some of those documents there. But in that kind of situation, is it also looks the same thing with what you are saying now on the issue of ethical? Because the Ministry of Economic Planning refused to give him the original of that document. But him being an historian, because there is one thing about historian, because historian also, while going to the archive or even looking for documents, you must act as maybe you are an intelligent officer, because most of the time, the people we are trying to get those documents for, they are not some of them are not willingly ready to give you the document, because on the process of analyzing your facts or even writing, you may write or say one or two things that will even indict them. And so many people are very conscious of that kind of thing, and that is the one challenges historians face on the field, sir.
Now, let me say something. If
Okay.
a particular material could be accessed from different sources, okay, like the record of the Civil War economy, which Awolowo had his own personal collection. If the official government did not make them available to you, and you're able to obtain it legally from the Awolowo library, you have not done anything, you have not committed any offense. Are you following me? Because you did not steal it from Awolowo library. If he made it available, if the library made it available to you, the collection made it available to you without restriction, you have not committed any offense. But what you need to do is to cite, when you are citing it, that you could not access this from the official government sources, but you collected it from the man who generated the document itself, from the library of Chief Obama. You are exonerated. You have not committed any offense. Are you following me? Hello?
Yes, sir. We are with you, sir.
Yeah.
We are with you.
That if the same material, if the same document is available in different sources, in different locations, if I can get the record, if somebody wants to write the history of Osun State University now, and he goes to the university and they didn't give him the material, and it comes to me and I make it available that I generated, he has not committed any offense because he didn't obtain it illegally. But if he came to my house to visit me, claim to have come to visit me, and comes to my library and steal the document, it's a different matter. Are you following me? Because some may come to you, and when you are off guard, they can take a paper out of your library without you knowing. And that is part of what some people do. But that kind of material cannot be cited. You cannot cite it legally. You can only say, oh, it is widely accepted, it is widely known, or confidential sources say, but any confidential source that cannot be corroborated is difficult. I don't know if I make any sense to you. So when you're in the archives and you can't access material, what do you do? Well, these are some of the issues. You can check other material, you can either check other libraries, you can check other possible places for the same material in case it's available there. Am I making sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
you are, sir.
That if a particular archive doesn't have it, it could be available in another location. So you want to write on the economy of Nigeria during the colonial period, and there's some things that are not available in the library, in the National Archives in Ibadan, but are available in the archives of the Royal Niger Company in England. You have not done anything. You have not committed any offense. Okay, what are the other things you can do? Other things you can do when you are in this kind of fix. And what are the other things you can do? Or you don't know? Hey, if you actually look at your screen, the first thing you see on the second bullet is taking notes. You can take notes of what material you want to put. And that was what I did in the National Archives in Canada when they didn't allow me to make some photocopies. I took notes, handwriting. I handwrote many of the things that I needed. We ran into hundreds of pages. The other thing I also did is to buy a midget recorder, and dictate the contents of those documents into it. And then when I got back to Ife, when I got back to London, where I was doing my PhD, I had to transcribe them, type them out. So I was dictating the contents, dictate the thing content by page, paragraph by paragraph, and I will indicate next paragraph. So that when I was transcribing, as much as possible, I was trying to get a picture of the document, but nobody could accuse me of photocopy or stealing out the document, because they actually gave me a parallel in the archive where I can be dictating, where I can be speaking out. So you have to be imaginative in dealing with some of these things. There are handwritten notes. If you come to my office when I get back to Ife, I'll show you some of those materials with my handwriting on them, which I wrote, and the ones that I word process, the ones that I dictated onto the media team and which I transcribed later. When I printed them out, I also have copies of those printouts which you can check. The other things you do, organize your documents when you are good. As well, if you are allowed, digitize the document because it makes it easier for you. Once you are allowed to photocopy, just photocopy. You can scan the document. If you are allowed to handle the document directly, scan the document, and it becomes a permanent record for you. If you photocopy, you can lose the photocopy. I don't know whether I'm making sense. If you photocopy, you can lose the copy. But if it is scanned into your phone or into your library, into your documents library, online documents library, there is there permanently. When I went to, I don't know whether I mentioned it to you, to do, what do you call it? I was sent by the NUC to go and investigate a case of fraud at a university in the South. The materials that we accessed there, that we saw, that were the base of our judgment, of our conclusions, I scanned all of them onto my drive, so that in future, if anybody wants to raise issues about our recommendations, all I need to do is just to go online and download and show it to them. Like the student that they said graduated, but couldn't write a single correct sentence. The answer script, the examination answer scripts, which is used, I photocopy them, I scan them into my drive, so that you can see it yourself, that could this person have graduated? So it will take something from you in the process. Then when you're in the archives, now to cross-reference them with other evidence. And it will be good before you go to the archives to have an idea of what you are looking for and compare the material with what you already have before going to the archives. I don't know whether I'm making sense to you. That is,
Yes.
the materials you get in the archives are supposed to buttress or cross-reference or what do you call it, validate what you already have, or give you a different perspective of what is in the public domain. Then you must learn, when you're doing your research, how to handle and preserve archival materials. Unfortunately, some of our archival materials have deteriorated in quality. Again, unfortunately, before they embraced the technology of digitizing documents, many documents have been lost. A real archive by now should embrace technology, and all their documents, they should start, they should have been putting them online. There is a whole section in the OAU library where the reprography section, where all they're doing is photocopying and archiving, so that in case in future you need access to them, particularly the newspapers, you need access to them. You know, the material that newspapers are made of, those print newspapers, you know that the quality is poor. After some years, they deteriorate. So if they are not digitized, they become useless. So you yourself, when you are using them, know how to handle them and know how to preserve them, because you don't want to add to the problem of the preservation that we're talking about. So what are digital archives? Who wants to take? What are digital archives? What are digital archives? Anybody?
Yes,
What
sir.
are digital archives? Yes, Chief.
Yes, sir. Well, digital archives basically refers to archival efforts at, well, how can I describe it without using the word digital again? Well, in keeping records in digital forms, basically.
Keeping records in
Did
digital
that make
form.
sense, sir?
Yeah, let's try to clarify it very well.
Yes,
Keeping
sir.
records in digital form, yes. What?
Yeah, well, a place of storage, for the safekeeping of digital information such as files, invoices, deeds, or other documents.
Okay.
So in a digital formation or electronic formation.
Is it every document that is placed online that is in an archive?
No, sir.
Okay. Yes. What are digital archives?
Hello, sir.
Digital archive in a nutshell is more of trying to let's assume that maybe the old document in the archive, but due to the technology and and the globalization, try to put everything on the global network, but with a code that indicates not everybody can just gain access. Without getting the code, you cannot get access to the archive. But they are more or less like the original document, but in a digital form. Either in form of let's assume that maybe in form of putting something on Facebook, putting it maybe on the internet. Those are just the only thing that differentiate it from the original document, which is in a paper form.
Okay. Jelilat. Jelilat. You are going to talk. Or she's frozen again.
I'm always talking.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you are going to talk.
Can you hear me,
Okay.
sir? Yes.
Okay. Prof said.
Yes. What did Prof say?
Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay.
Okay, sir. Digital archives are collection of materials that have been stored in an electronic format. It can be either of like the one Amao said, maybe either Facebook, email, websites, etc.
Okay. Now, okay, there are documents that are not consciously created as archives, but they are records that could be used by historians. Records of email, for instance. If you are working for the government, in a serious government, your official communication must only be on the government server. Your official communication must always be on the government server, not on the web, yahoo.com.
Not on Yahoo or Gmail or whatever.
Not Gmail. Official transaction must be on the official server of government, because that way they have access to the materials and you can access the materials directly. That's one. Let me give you another example. Diaspora groups. You want to talk, Fatai? Okay. The diaspora, when you have a community, okay, a WhatsApp group of a community, if the records are preserved, they can be digital materials for use for researchers in future. Now, there are groups, online groups, Yahoo groups, Google groups. There are groups diaspora groups that interact online. If you want to write the history of the Ogbomoso community in the US, for instance, you can get a lot from their chats on their groups online. These are all digital archives. So it's not just the ones that are consciously created by organizations. There are some that are not developed as archives. If I want to write the history, I do some work on the diaspora groups. And when you want to look at how did they create identity formation in the diaspora, a lot of materials can be obtained from their conversations online. Through their WhatsApp groups, through their Yahoo groups, through their mail groups. All of these are group chats that can give you an insight into integration of individuals, absorbing them, socialization into the community, the instruments for integration of new migrants. All of these things are online. Let's just so digital archives are collections of digitized or digitally born materials, including texts, images, audio, video, and other media. Of these are available in your, in the WhatsApp groups. Most WhatsApp groups, you see a lot of people sharing pictures, sharing media, other media, sharing videos and other things that are preserved and made accessible through online platforms. That's a moment. Yeah, through online platforms. These archives are often curated by libraries, museums, universities, and government institutions to facilitate research and public access to historical documents. Now, OAU Library, and I'm sure many of the university libraries are currently engaged in digitizing their holdings. Okay, these are things that will be available for scholars and researchers in future. So, what are the key data archives that are available? There is the Pan-African Archive, which is digital, based in the UK. Unfortunately, it's supposed to be an African archive that is based in the United Kingdom. This archive focuses on collecting, preserving, and providing access to materials related to the African diaspora, including records of anti-colonial movements, cultural activism, and transnational histories. These are things that they're helping us somehow. Then the collections there include photographs, oral histories, documents, multimedia that are essential for understanding African and diasporic narratives. So if you want to study the African diaspora in the UK, in Europe, it's better for you to have your access to the Digital Pan-African Archive. Then there's the World Digital Library, which is a UNESCO project, and Library of Congress. The World Digital Library brings together cultural materials from libraries and archives all over the world. It will also be good for you to familiarize yourself with it. Just Google it, World Digital Library, and see the access. Of course, relevance collection includes manuscripts, rare books, maps, documents from Africa that offer insights of the pre-colonial, colonial, and post-colonial periods. So you don't have to go to, it's not just in Ibadan or Enugu or Accra or Sierra Leone that you can get materials. Some of the things that you need to study the pre-colonial and colonial history of Africa, and even the post-colonial, they are available as digital collections in the World Digital Library. And the World Digital Library, which is a UNESCO project, working with the Library of Congress. For those who have used the Library of Congress, you can know that it's the largest library in the world. It's so extensive, so massive. Of course, the British Library's Endangered Archives Program. The Endangered Archives Program is not just about Africa. It's about several parts, different parts of the world. It's not exclusively focused on Africa, but it digitizes collections that are at risk of disappearing, including materials from African context. So when you are using the the Endangered Archives Program, the libraries, the collections there. There are things that were at risk of being destroyed, either by poor collection, either by activities of governments that have came to eradicate history. So these are things that are available to us easily. The relevance, of course, the Endangered Archives Program has preserved documents and records from conflict zones, the kind of thing that happened in Iraq, post-colonial transitions, and community histories, many of which are pivotal for African historical studies. Many times, collections are destroyed shortly after, maybe during period of wars, during period of turbulence, where there's massive dislocation, and the earlier these things are documented and archived and digitized, the better for humanity. Of course, the South African History Archive is also important. The South African History Archive is known for its extensive documentation of South African political and social struggles, particularly during the apartheid era. If there is a people that need to document their experience, of course, the Blacks in South Africa are one of them. Of course, that's the South Africa History Archive and digital collections include records of activities movements. We want to look at the record of Mandela, Thabo Mbeki, what do you call it? The bishop.
What?
Chief, what is it?
So, no, I'm saying Walter Sisulu, etc.
Yes, all of them. These are things you will find there. They may not be easily accessible even in their own homes, but if you go to the historical archives, history archives of South Africa, you find those things there. Personal testimonies, some record their testimonies and make it available for archives. Organizational documents that provide unique perspectives of South Africa's past. So there are archives in other, what do you call it, African countries. South Africa is one, we mentioned that. Egypt is there. In fact, Egypt is one of the ones with the largest collection of archival materials, which, what do you call it, dates back centuries. The tax collections, including manuscripts, papyrus, maps, and other documents that are critical for research in North African and Mediterranean history. So, when you get to Alexandria, the Bibliotheca Alexandrina is one place where you should visit, because then there are things for you. Then the other national archives, Kenya, Nigeria, all of them, and many of them are now digitizing their archives. The archival holdings. I'm not too sure of how far we have gone in Nigeria. I won't use the archive for some time now because my research doesn't really take me there. But it's worth to check the website of these archives before you start determining what you need. And I will suggest one thing for you. I think part of your research is to do, part of your classwork, coursework is a report on the archival visit. You may decide to go and visit a digital archive. So you don't have to go to a physical archive and see, but I hope you have the skills to navigate those things. Now, apart from the national digital archives and other things, there are academic repositories like the university, that's OAU. Many universities today and research institutes with African Studies program host digital repositories that include theses, dissertations, research papers, and sometimes unique primary source documents. Now, if you go to the University of Ibadan library, there are holdings there that will serve your purpose very well. University of Leiden in Netherlands is there. Of course, American Studies at University of Ghana, American Studies, University of Ibadan. All of them have institutional archives. Our time is really, really flying. It's already half past 4. 1933. Now, any comments, any questions so far? Let's review before we continue. Comments, questions? Comments,
So far, so good,
questions?
sir.
Eh?
So far, so good, sir.
When you get to exam, don't tell me that you have problem. Don't. It is your time to
Okay,
ask
sir.
questions.
Okay, sir, prof.
But when I ask my own question in the exam, there won't be raising of my hand, though. I will just answer and I will leave the place.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, what about the challenges of digital archives, sir?
We'll come to it.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
What do you think are the challenges? What do you think are the challenges, particularly for a scholar in this part of the world?
First is the
In
issue
our
of
part of the world.
in this part of the world, the issue of electricity.
Yeah. Remember that digital archives, you can access it from your house.
Yes.
Okay. So, what are the possible challenges? What are the possible challenges? Hello?
Yes, sir. Is it of archives in general or digital archives in
No.
particular?
He mentioned digital archives. He mentioned digital archives.
Yes, sir. He did.
What are the challenges of using digital archives?
Hello.
Well,
Particularly, yes.
Do I have the floor?
In fact, you have not just the floor, you have your whole house, your whole room.
Sir, one challenges that I'm looking at, particularly in this age of technology, sir,
Yes.
is the issue of particular. Let me situate it in Nigeria. The problem of being conscious of our history, because many people do not even understand the importance of history, and on the process some of them end up destroying some of the archival material, even some of the one that their father might have, or their father or their mother might have preserved jealously, but on the process maybe they are trying to clear one thing or the other, they end up destroying it, either burning it outrightly or even throwing it or even just destroying it. So that is one challenges that I'm looking at.
I will try to refine that to say selectivity in what's available online.
Okay.
Because, like you said, some have been destroyed. So what is available online may be incomplete record. Are you following me? It's
yes,
possible
sir.
you have incomplete records. Also, from a part of the world, sometimes the challenge of network access could be there. Some of those archives require payment for you to access them. And even if you have your money, you may not have the, what do you call it, access. You may not have the credit card to. So sometimes you have to pay, so you may not have access. Sometimes your network will never allow you. And if you pay for access for a particular number of hours, because it's not an endless access that you may have when it is restricted. If you pay for a particular number of hours, and like you said, there's no light in your house, in your neighborhood for the period, your money don't finish. Your money don't chop with that. Am I making sense to you?
Yes, sir.
So these are issues that you need to consider. Let's quickly go on. So what are the values of digital archives for African historical research? Because we come to number one is enhanced accessibility. You can access it from anywhere in the world. These fragile documents, these rare documents, which are no longer are not available in physical repositories, are now available online. So from your comfort of your house in the Jebudesha, you can access those documents from the Commonwealth of Affairs in Ijebu. You can access those documents, even from places where there's no light. As long as you have access to the internet, you can access them. So there's a accessibility for researchers around the world. But that also means that you are not the only one that's accessing them. It's available to you in Ibadan, it's accessible to me in Ife, it's accessible to the man in Abeokuta, it's accessible to the man in Mokwa, but also accessible to the man in the United States or Canada or Northern Europe. So the preservation, once it has been digitized, preservation is easier. Digitization helps to safeguard materials that might otherwise be at risk of environmental damage, conflict, or neglect. We are talking about newspapers, that the materials for printing newspapers are so fragile, they turn pale very soon. So if they are not digitized early enough, you lose many of them. But now, most newspapers now have online versions of their newspapers. So it reduces the risk of damage, environmental damage in terms of the moth. You have moth, you have moldy documents, conflicts like we mentioned earlier. Sometimes in a lot of conflicts, libraries are destroyed, archives are destroyed. Of course, sometimes neglect. So, like in our archives in Ibadan, Enugu, Kaduna, years of neglect have caused some of those documents to deteriorate. But once they're digitized, the preservation is permanent, hoping that they are put in the cloud where you can access them at any time. Of course, searchability and integration. You can search easily. With keywords, you can search what you want on the digital platform, which is not the same thing as searching physically in the archives. I don't know whether that makes sense to you. Hello?
Very well,
Yes,
sir.
you,
Hello,
you are, sir.
sir. Yes, sir.
If you go to the archives in Ibadan, you have to wade through one by one. Okay, go through the catalog, go through the olden record one by one to see what's available. But if you are online, all you need to do is just to put the keyword. It will tell you what's available in the area of your research. Many data archives include metadata, keyword indexing, and advanced search features that makes it to locate specific information across large collections. So these are major advantages for us. Then offers diverse perspectives. Most digital archives compile materials from different regions of the world and from different perspectives. So it helps us to understand our past in a more comprehensive way. I don't know whether I'm making sense to you. There is a more nuanced and more comprehensive understanding of records because you are looking at it from different perspectives. Different perspectives. Then it facilitates interdisciplinary research. Materials available in digital format support cross-disciplinary studies. You can combine history with anthropology, with sociology, with political science, with religion, and many more. With economics, somebody is writing on the national development plans. It has economic dimensions. So all of these things can help us to paint a richer picture of historical events and cultural shifts. Now, I have something here that tip for researchers. Okay, that before beginning your research, it's helpful to explore the portals of these archives and use their search and filtering tools to pinpoint resources most relevant to your specific area of interest within African history. Additionally, many of these institutions offer research guides or virtual assistants to help navigate their collections. So don't just stay in the dark. Take advantage of the material, the guidelines that are available to help you to locate exactly what you want. Use their search engine, use their filtering tools to actually identify what you want so that you are not just roaming around online. And then I was at the what do you call it? The Ford auto archive. Auto, it's not an archive as such. Where you have all kinds of the technology museum, where you saw how technology is developed in America, railway technology, the automotive technology, vehicles, cars, trains, aeroplanes, ship. I was at the place, and when I got to the center, the first place I went to was the section where it gives me a guide as to what materials are there, narrates the history and how to access them. So you don't have to be wandering around online. You can actually go straight to what you want. And they place the virtual assistants online. So make use of them to help you to, what do you call it? Help you to navigate your collection easily. So let's go to the challenges. That's where you are jumping the gun. Challenges and limitations of archival research. What are the challenges? What are the limitations of archival research? Does anybody want to comment? What do you think are the challenges? Some of you have used archives before. So we have 15 minutes to go. Time is, I still have a lot to do. Can we? So some of you have used archives before. What do you think are the challenges? What are the limitations of archival research?
Yes.
Yes.
Professor, we here.
Yes,
sir. Part of the challenges that I have noticed in my use of the National Archives in Ibadan especially is that sometimes you have limited access to research materials.
Access to research materials.
Because
Please take notes.
Yeah, because they may just not, enough materials may just not be available. Also, your efforts at researching sometimes are really time consuming. You start looking for archival materials. Sometimes it's 10 a.m. By the time they close at 2, you are still, maybe you have just found what you are looking for. And then you have to repeat it. You have to come back again, to start working on them. So it's very time consuming for researchers.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you have
limited access, you've noted
limited access, time consuming.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have incomplete documentation.
Excellent. Incomplete documentation. Yeah, excellent.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, continue.
Yes, sir. So those are the ones that I can remember. I can come up with.
There could be incomplete documentation, there could be limited access.
Yes, sir. My own
time. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. To my own understanding, sir, I think yes, this is Akonde Opeyemi, sir.
Yeah.
I think we've mentioned the challenges through our conversation so far since we started the class, which is the restrictions and the accessibility to those materials due to some laws and policies.
Yeah. There are restrictions.
Are you with me, sir?
Yes. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you now, sir.
Yeah, he said there are restrictions based on laws. Put your mic back on.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned restrictions based on laws. Okay. There are some things you may not be able to access because of policies of the government, sir, or the policies of those running the archive. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So there are challenges here and there. Yes. What are the other ones? What are the other challenges that you remember, or that you know, or that you craft?
Hello, sir.
Good
day, sir.
Hello, sir.
Wasiu, I'm coming.
Okay, sir.
Benson.
Good day, sir. Yes, sir.
Because you are not presenting, your internet is not good. right?
Good day, sir. Can you hear me?
Okay.
I'm very sorry, sir. The network issues. I don't know if you can hear me, sir. Hello, sir.
We can hear
Supposed
you,
to
Madam Titilayo. Please fire on.
Okay. I would like to talk on the limitation to the use of archive. I don't know if Prof can hear me. So
Madam
someone
Titilayo, looks
mentioned
like your
the use
internet is not
of
stable.
hmm,
okay, Amo, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I wanted to, chip in some things on the challenges of the archive, for
Sakaba.
historians. First is the issue of corruption of the staffs.
That,
I'm talking of the archivists, the corruption among them, sir.
okay.
And inexperience of some of the or poorly trained archivists that we have in Nigerians of today.
Lack
Sir?
of
Okay.
expert
Eh,
guidance.
So, and another one that really affecting the issue of, because archive is very important for historian trying to reconstruct the past or trying to write rich history. But another problem we are facing now in the field is the issue of, the conscious, just like the way Professor Adesina said it in his inaugural lecture, the consciousness of Nigerian to history. How are we conscious in doing the preservation of our documents for history? Hello, sir.
Yeah, continue.
How are we conscious? Because these days, sir, you'll be so marveled the kind of thing some family do ought to have know better by maybe, for instance, donating their parents' documents. If they cannot keep it in their home, they can easily keep, call the National Archive or even the, some private institutions to come and take the document of their parents. Some, instead of them, donating those documents, they rather prefer to burn it off. So, and these are kind of challenges that is facing. When it comes to the issue of corruption, sir, hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah, continue.
When it comes to the issue of corruption in the system, sir, you'll be so surprised that some of the archivists I'm referring to, the one I'm conversant with in Ibadan here. Some of them prefer, giving vital document to the foreigners. I'm talking of the whites at the expense of the blacks, even their fellow Nigerians, giving them documents because of the money they are going to give them. And even some of them, apart from that, the regulation of not allowing people to make photocopy, don't allow the document to go out, is only for people that cannot pay their the amount or their the money they are demanding for. If you can pay the money they are demanding for, these people are even ready to give you the document and say take it away. If you like, return it. If you like, don't return it. They are less concerned with, and that's the challenges that historians are facing now, that even some of the documents that you might have consulted in the 60s, even in the 70s, you can hardly find it there now.
Yeah, I've had issues with going to the archives to locate particular documents and finding that while they are listed in the catalog, they are not on the shelves. While they are listed in the inventory of the archive itself, you can't find the document because somebody has stolen it. These are part of the challenges. So let's quickly just run through. Accessibility issues are there in terms of the limitations, in terms of the challenges. Accessibility issues, some materials are restricted. Some are operating under the 50-year rule, in which, even though the materials are there, if they are not yet been declassified and made available to the public, to researchers, even though you can see them, you may not be able to access them. Even though they are listed in the catalog, you may not be able to get direct access to them. And then bureaucracy. Now, one of you, Amon was waxing lyrical about corruption in the place. But when I asked a question about what do you do when you're not allowed to photocopy in an archive, one of you said you tip them. So you are part of the problem. Because what you call tip is actually corruption. Yeah.
Very true, sir.
Or an historian, a historian should learn how to do anything to get his source. I can't call that this thing, sir.
Including illegal ones. Right? Including illegal ones, Akonde.
Illegal
Yes, sir.
ones should
So I
not be
can get
allowed, sir.
my source. Okay. But I don't know. It's not allowed though, but I don't care. Just to get my source, sir.
When you do illegal ones, you cannot cite the source.
That's it. I made that point earlier. If you get
Yes, sir.
a document illegally, cannot cite it.
You cannot cite it.
Cite it. Except your supervisor is not aware of how you collected the material. And if your supervisor is not aware, but your external examiner is aware, then you are even greater trouble. Because your external examiner may be aware that where did you get this thing? So it's not a question of say, oh, have the money. Have the money doesn't solve the problem. So there's poor preservation of materials. And of course, deterioration of records. Some of the materials easily break down after several years. Some after 5 years, some after 10 years. Some, the document will turn pale and are not readable again, except to quickly digitize them. There are some materials digitized in the OU library today that the digital version is actually in a pale color because the document are deteriorated. But fortunately, they're able to save them. The theft of materials, stealing of materials. I'm sure people like Akane will steal materials from the archives because he said he will do anything to get his material.
No, sir. No, sir. I can't do that, sir.
Akande ti gborúkọ.
You always say you do anything to get your material now.
No, I was only kidding, sir. I can't do that. I can't go to that extent.
Yeah, please, whatever you do, make sure you don't engage in illegality to get your material. Nothing is worth destroying your name. Nothing. Then we are talking about selectivity. Okay, that could be bias in archival records. The colonial archives, the colonial narratives, these are state-controlled narratives of what happened during the period. It is what they want us to know that they tell us, and it's what they want us to know that they tell us that is in the archive. So some materials are purposely created narratives. Individuals by individuals with eye for history. When I was using the Arnold Smith papers, I'll give you a copy of that paper, or the paper I wrote on it. The Arnold Smith papers, new source materials for reconstructing Commonwealth history. One of the things that struck me was that the man was consciously creating materials for history. So every evening when he finishes his work, at the end of the day, he will go back to his library and dictate his events for the whole of that day, from the time he woke up to the time he was going to bed, and dictating that thing. If he had meetings with world leaders, he would document his perspective of those meetings. How did the meeting go? What were the purpose of the meeting? What did they achieve? This is in addition to the official record, the written ones. He would dictate his own perspective into it. So that when I was using the archives, I had the benefit of official record and the narratives of the man, which was given daily. So I would cite, because they call them diaries. So diaries, 28th January 1967 or 20th January 1969. Okay, because it was actively involved in efforts to stop the Nigerian Civil War. And that was my origin. That was my inroad into the project, into the history of that period. So there are materials that are purposely created, and the kind of person that is writing will not want to put himself in a negative light. I don't know whether I'm making sense. If you are creating a material about your activities in office today as a public servant, and you are writing it knowing that it's going to the archives, you're not likely to say something against yourself. I don't know whether I make any sense. You're not likely to blame yourself for the failure of peace talks. If there was, like during the Nigerian Biafra War, okay, and peace talks were mediated between the two sides by the Commonwealth Secretariat, they had the Kampala peace talks, okay. If you read the perspective of the Nigerian participants in that meeting and the perspectives of Biafra representatives at the same meeting, and now you read the perspective of Arnold Smith, who brokered the meeting, they probably will be telling you three different things. But neither side will blame you, will blame themselves to say, I'm responsible for the breakdown of the talks. I don't know whether I'm making any sense to you. So when you are reading material that are purposely created by a public official, somebody with an eye for history, you have to be very careful, because not only that he will not project himself in a negative light, he might actually consciously project others in a negative light, so that it is only his own side of the story that we're airing. So you have to be very careful when you pick those kind of materials, particularly if they are writing on an issue in which they were active participants. Of course, digital divide, we're talking about the challenge of using online archives. Mention the digital divide. Many of us, our internet access is very poor, very, very poor. And then, like I mentioned earlier, limited online accessibility. Sometimes you may not have full access. Sometimes you have access that are limited by time. Sometimes you have access that are limited by time and money. They may tell you that you can only use this thing for 1 hour or 1.5 hours a day. How much can you do in 1.5 hours or 2 hours? So all of these things affect the way we use our archives. Let's run to using libraries for historical research. Any comments so far before we continue? Any questions? Unfortunately, we are going to shoot beyond 5 o'clock. It's already 5 o'clock. Unfortunately, we have to shoot beyond it. Or you want to stop now? Hello? Hello?
I think we
Yes,
should
sir.
conclude. I think we should conclude the class, sir.
I was going to say silence means consent. So, using libraries for historical research, of course, I don't have to overemphasize this. Libraries have not been central to historical research. Libraries serve as custodians of knowledge and active facilitators of inquiries. Libraries that you go to, they have books, they have documents, they have encyclopedia, they have archival materials, they have all sorts of things. So libraries generally are custodians of knowledge, and are places where you can go and conduct your inquiry. In fact, any historical scholar must begin his research in the library. Look at what's available in terms of secondary materials, the books, the journals, the things that are available, and the rare collections, the rare material, the rare books, manuscripts and special collections that are available in your library before you start going elsewhere. Once you have defined your research objective, once you have decided what you want to do, once you already decided this is what I want to do, okay, you get to the library, you can start your research from there. Look at what's available in the library. Indeed, when you are writing your research proposal, you're supposed to tell us the gaps in knowledge. That presupposes you already have an idea of existing knowledge. Libraries' evolving role encompasses the preservation, organization, and dissemination of historical materials. That is part of their role. Preservation of material, organization of materials, dissemination of materials, as well as support they provide to researchers navigating vast areas of information. So libraries also provide support for you as a researcher. And if you go to take for instance, the Archival Assembly Library, and you go to the librarian's office, you need access, you need help, they will guide you to the person who can assist in the process. We'll rush through this. The role of capital can be grouped into 4 major clusters. One is preservation and custodianship. You get the slide in the recording. I've gone into details of each of them in the next few slides, but preservation of the materials, custodianship, they keep them on your behalf, on our behalf. So things like archival materials, books and everything, how many books can you keep in your own house anyway? So preservation role, custodianship role. Then number 2 is access. Through them, you can access materials that you need for your research and discovery. You know what is available. Then they also provide support and expertise, okay, to assist you with your work. And then through the libraries, you can engage in a community work. That is, you can come together to determine, to go through these things. The various elements are air, preservation, custodianship, primary source preservation. So things like letters, manuscripts, newspapers. There's no library that doesn't have newspaper holdings. Diaries of individuals, diaries of public officials, photographs, maps, government documents. These are primary sources that are invaluable for historians, and many of them are available in library. So part of their job is to preserve them for use by researchers in future. People like you that want to use them now. Use them in reconstructing the past, understand cultural context, analyze social dynamics. Their custodianship, of course, they maintain special collections and all that. Then, still under access and discovery, you have the curated collections. They bring things together, okay? And then they use the cataloging system to let you know what is available in that particular library. And this is critical for you as a researcher because it gives you the first access, the first inkling, the first clue as to what is available in a particular library. Then, under access and discovery role is the digital initiatives. They also digitize materials. And this has revolutionized access to historical documents. Digital libraries and online repositories allow researchers worldwide to view high-resolution images and transcribe tests remotely, thereby overcoming geographical and logistics barriers. What are the other roles of the library? Chiboro Dubagwe is trying to join. I don't want to close the, okay. So, curated collections, digital archives, and then also part of the access and discovery function is interlibrary loans and resource sharing. I don't know how it works now, but in most standard libraries that have relationship with other libraries, from your library at Olu Assembly Library, you can request for materials at Ahmadu Bello University Library. If something is available in Ahmadu Bello University Library in Zaria, which you need, and it's not available at the OAU Library, you can go through the OAU Library to get them to send it to you. I don't know whether we have used that facility before, but I don't know whether they are still making them available. When I was an undergraduate, it was easy. They just made the thing and those ones send it at their own expense. But today, if they're going to do it, I'm sure, almost sure that they want you to pay for the cost of transportation. Resource sharing is also part of it, so that when you do interlibrary loan, it enables researchers to access materials not available in their local institutions. And this cooperation expands the reach of historical researchers across multiple colleges and regions. So without having to leave your own university, you can access materials available in other locations. Libraries provide support and expertise. They guide you as to the kind of thing you're supposed to be doing. When you are going through the video, you can always pause each page to take your notes. Provide research guidance, they tell you what's available, they point to where it is. And then some of them also organize workshops to teach you, to let you know what is available and how you can access them. And this kind of activity fosters community practice that keeps historical research dynamic and current. So people are always available. Finally, there is a community and cultural engagement. Local history and community memory. If a library is performing its functions very well, they play a critical role in collecting materials on the local history of the community and make it available in the library. Libraries play a vital role in preserving local history and fostering community heritage. Through oral history projects, local archives, and community events, they capture and celebrate the diverse narratives that contribute to a broader understanding of history. Sorry, I'm trying to rush so that we can live on time. It's already 2 hours, although we wasted quite a number of minutes when we started. Not many people joined initially, and then there are technical issues I was trying to clarify from this end. I changed the device that I'm using to access. So some of the settings in the earlier one are not available in this one. And then, of course, interdisciplinary research by providing access to a wide range of materials from scientific journals and governmental reports to literature and art. Libraries support interdisciplinary approaches to enrich historical research with insights from multiple fields. So, in summary, libraries are indispensable to historical research. I'm sure I don't have to repeat that, you know it. Libraries not only preserve and provide access to materials that form the backbone of historical inquiry, but also actively support researchers through expertise, technology, and community engagement. Of course, their evolving services continue to adapt to modern challenges, ensuring that the past remains accessible and relevant for future generations. Just a moment, please. Okay. Okay, so we cannot ignore libraries as we cannot ignore archives. If you want to navigate library resources, I'm sure you should be able to familiar with that, know how to use catalogs, how to use the databases, how to access the materials. You must understand the classification system. When you see DT, when you see HA, when you see HC, when you see ZD, all of those refer to different types of collection, not types of collections, but the disciplines that are available. If you have used, I've used library before to access materials on history. You've used the library before. Let me see. Can I see the indication? I want to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What are the letters preceding most books under history? And it's almost universal to libraries across the world.
I think it's HIS, sir.
No, that is not a library cataloging system. That is history code. That's subject code in your history 404 class. I'm talking of library cataloging.
Sir, do you mean requesting for the catalog or the letters they post on the shelves?
If you want to access, if you see a book in history, if
Okay,
you
sir.
go to the shelves, if you go to each shelf, you will see some letters on them that tells you AA to DD or AA to AC, BA to BC, BB to ZZ. Those things are at the edges of each shelf so that you know the range of books that are there. If you want to check a history book, what are the ranges that you find those books?
Someone else can answer.
You don't use the library. I feel sorry for you. I feel very, 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 very sorry for you people. Libraries, let me give you that assignment. Next week, you are going to tell me if you want to pick a book on South Africa, what is likely to be the library code of that book, the catalog code? Will it be a BA? Will it be a DA? Will it be a DC? Will it be a DT? Will it be an AA? And then if you want to pick a book in political science, tell me which, tell me the range in which you have history books, European history, world history, African history, Nigerian history. They have a range in the library. If you want to look for books in social sciences, for books in economics, for books in political science, for books in sociology, for books in anthropology, there are ranges. I can tell you offhand the larger, what do you call it, the larger framework, but you need to be able to find out things for yourself. So you need to know the classification system in the library. Because when you get to the shelf, it's not you cannot just be looking all over the shelves. There must be something you are looking for. It shows that your generation are not even reading books again. You are not using the library. So if you want to navigate library, so you must understand library catalogs. How are they compiled? You must understand the database that are there. You must understand the classification system. Okay? And then how do you access interlibrary loans and digital resources? Interlibrary loans, usually in a standard library, there will be a desk manned by somebody on interlibrary loans. It could be part of somebody's assignment. It may not be the only thing the person is doing, but there's somebody that is designated to be in charge of interlibrary loans. So if you want to borrow a book from University of Physical Library, for instance, that's the person you go to. I don't know whether we do it in our university these days, but it used to be part of the benefits we enjoyed as undergraduates at the time in Ife. Let's finish. Hello?
They still do it, sir.
So that's the thing. Many people deprive themselves of these opportunities, of these facilities, because they don't even know it's existing. So what are the ethical considerations you must put into place when using archives and library? What are the ethical considerations? There are some ethical considerations to ensure that your work respects individuals, communities, and the integrity of your sources. I've listed 6 on this page. Number 1 is privacy and confidentiality. If, for instance, like Akade, you want to bribe your way to get a document in the library or in the archive, you must know that you must respect the privacy and the confidentiality that guided the decision not to make it easily available. Some documents are available on confidential basis. That if you use this source, don't quote it directly, just summarize. Some, they allow you to quote, but you can only quote to a particular level. Okay? Sometimes you need the consent and community engagement before you can use the materials. If you are researching on chieftaincy disputes, for instance, I don't know who mentioned the issue a few minutes ago about somebody using material in a dispute between two communities or between two royal families. If you're going to use material that is generated by one side, you probably will need their consent. You need to engage with them. Because the materials are available does not mean that you can use them freely. Then sometimes there is bias in the compilation. There are representation challenges and interpretation. Ultimately, you are the one that will interpret a document, but some are already interpreted for you. Some are interpreted for you, not directly, but by the kind of materials that are made available to you. Because you can only come to some conclusion. Some materials will provide you with information that can only lead to a particular conclusion. So you have to be careful with your access, with how you interpret those documents. Then there's intellectual property and copyright. When you go to the library, my library at the London School of Economics, where I studied for the PhD, the library there, when you go to the library, as you open, you pay to photocopy, you buy tokens, and it gives the number of pages you want to photocopy. When you open the scanning cover to put a document, as you are putting the document, you will see a document on it, inside it, right built under the glass. You can only photocopy a maximum of 20% of any book. There are restrictions, there are intellectual property laws, which we disobey all the time. So what many of us did at that time, they said you cannot photocopy more than 20% at a time. So you do 20% today, then after 2 days you go back to do another 20%. Then after another week, you go back to do another 20%. So after about 4 or 5 weeks, you have photocopied the whole book, which you have defeated the intent of the law. I don't know when I'm making sense. You have bypassed the law by not doing more than 20% at a time. But what the law says is that you can't do more than 20% of this book. But we interpret it as 20% of the book at a time. So what I'm saying is, you must respect intellectual property and copyright laws. Okay? Transparency, accountability. Don't engage in illegal conduct to get your documents out, because it becomes difficult to use those materials thereafter. Okay. Digital archiving also has its challenges, as I've discussed. Data security is there. Data security. There are some things that are online which could be hacked. Okay. And compromises the security of those documents. So, privacy and confidentiality. These are some of the challenges. Sensitive personal information, many archive materials, letters, diaries, oral histories contain sensitive and private information about individuals and communities. You must consider the potential impact on living individuals or their descendants and handle such matter with care. Some of us have not been able to write our memoirs. Why? Because some of the people that are going to list in such books are still alive. And you write things that will affect them negatively. You write things that will diminish their personality in public. You know, somebody that the community has held in high esteem, and you are now writing about what transpired officially between you and them that belies the public image. You have to be very careful. So when you have access to the materials that relate to that kind of thing, you have to be very careful how you handle those materials. So you must know the potential impact on living individuals of people who are still alive of the kind of thing you are using your materials for. Be very, very, very careful. Sometimes archives impose confidentiality agreements. You are supposed to sign before you use them. Please learn to respect those agreements. They are not just, the agreements on your phone. When you say you want to use a particular app, nobody reads them. But then you say, I agree. I click that I agree column. It says, I've read this section. I've read this document and I agree. But you have never read a single line. But that means you are still bound by it. Archives impose restrictions on the use of materials and their reproduction. Either they say you can't photocopy at all, or they say you cannot photocopy more than a particular percentage of the document, or you cannot photocopy a particular section. So these sections, particularly those containing sensitive information, you must learn to adhere to them. It is an obligation on your part. I beg you. Don't violate the ethics of this profession. Don't engage in activities that raise questions about your integrity. It's very important, please. Still on consent and community engagement. Of course, when working with materials that include personal relatives, especially from marginalized or vulnerable communities, researchers must consider whether informed consent was obtained at the time of collection or whether additional steps are needed to ensure ethical use. If you have access to a material that is supposed to be restricted, you need to confirm that free access is allowed. You need to confirm. Don't assume. I beg you, don't assume. Archives sometimes hold materials that have been stolen. That's the word. The books will tell you collected under colonial or exploitative circumstances. But some of those things are stolen from the communities. If you go to the British Museum or the Louvre in Paris, or even archives or museums in the US, you will see stolen artworks from Africa, from Benin, from Oyo, from Ife, Orioloku, that have been stolen. Okay? And when you are using those materials, you have to respect the ethics of the community. It's not just enough to say, oh, I've collected them. Then you also have the issue of bias, representation and interpretation, like I mentioned earlier. Selection bias, some collections are selective. It may not be your fault, but you have to be careful in interpretation, because what it means is that your collection, your access is one of, how do I put it now? You have an incomplete record to work with because the selection has been redacted. So you need to assess how these biases will influence your interpretation of history. Be very careful with your interpretation, particularly when you are working with material that might have been redacted. Then I beg you, engage in responsible interpretation. These are part of ethical issues we must consider at all times. I'm sorry I've gone almost 30 minutes past, but I know it's not my fault. We probably wasted about 15 minutes. So, handling archival materials ethically means avoiding anachronistic judgments and respecting the original context in which documents were created. Have respect for the creator of the document. What was the intention? What was the purpose of the creation? It might not be for your history, but you must respect why it was created. So we must be scholars. As scholars, we must be transparent about the choices we make with regard to interpretation and how our perspective affect our analysis. Don't allow yourself to be prejudiced. Don't allow jaundiced views to determine your interpretation of history. Finally, intellectual property and copyright. You must respect copyright laws, respect ownership. Don't abuse intellectual property by engaging in activities that are illegal. Of course, digital rights and access, you must be aware of digital rights management issues, ensuring that the data is used in accordance with the terms as set by the host institution. Because you have access from a site does not mean you should not respect what they want you to do with it or how they want to use the material. Of course, transparency and accountability, methodological transparency, data integrity, these are all crucial matters for us. Data privacy in digital formats, ethical use of technology. So, let me do this slowly so that, excuse me, so that when you are scrolling through, are you able to take your notes? You need methodological transparency and you need to protect the integrity of your data or the data you're accessing. Excuse me.
Sorry, sir. Maybe you should drink water, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank
sir.
you. It's okay. Okay, thank you. I'm trying to make sure that
Sorry, sir.
you're able to capture the pages. Data privacy, data formats, ethical use of technology. For instance, use of AI. I beg you, don't use AI to mix documents because you might mine documents using your software and then create another document entirely. You have to be careful that you use technology ethically. Don't be too reliant on technology without critical human oversight. I beg you. So, in summary, ethical considerations in library and archival research are multifaceted and require a proactive, reflective approach. By respecting privacy and confidentiality, engaging with communities, critically examining biases, and maintaining transparency and integrity in their research methods, historians can honor the trust placed in them as custodians and interpreters of the past. Addressing these ethical challenges not only upholds academic standards, but also contributes to a more inclusive and respectful understanding of history. You don't want to write a history that people disrespect because you have violated the ethics of collecting materials. Whether the use of archives or the use of libraries, there are ethical considerations that we must take into consideration, that we must put privacy on, and we have identified them. So don't taint your work by, don't taint your work by engaging in illegality. I will stop there, allow you to ask your questions or make your comments before we close. We'll close in the next 2-3 minutes, depending on the comments and questions. You can take another 1 hour. If you have the questions that need to be answered, I don't mind. So comments and questions, because I'm not going back to this topic. Comments and questions.
Yes, Prof, sir.
Yes,
Please. Here, sir.
Yes.
My question is how to define the thin lines involved in ethical standards. Yeah. Now, somebody said in the class earlier on that a historian needed to do what he needed to do to get information from sources.
Yeah.
And you also responded by saying, even if it's unethical or illegal. So my question now is that in trying to access information via the sources available to a researcher, how does one draw the line between know when you are going beyond being ethical in your approach?
You know, I have a very straightforward answer to that.
Yes, sir.
When we have crossed the boundary, we know. We may pretend to ourselves, so we may pretend to others. When we have crossed the boundaries of ethical consideration, we know that we are doing something wrong. So when somebody goes to the archives and is trying to smuggle out a document, you know that he's doing something wrong. Abi? Ethical considerations may appear to be fluid, but the truth is, when we break the law, we know we're breaking the law. We may pretend that, oh, we are still ethically covered. But the truth is that we also know the truth about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. Once you cannot own up to it, that you did it in the archives or in the library, then you know that it is wrong. That's one. Number two, when you are using it and you are not admitting how you collected it, then you know that it is wrong. So, he said a historian must do what a historian must do to get his materials. That is, the Machiavelli approach. The end justifies the means. Yes, it's good to go out of your way, to go the extra mile, to collect materials, to get things done. Stay overnight in the archives, spend time to transcribe and all that. But when it comes to violating the law, the guidelines, the principles, the ethics of the authority that has generated the documents, then you have crossed the boundary. Anytime you do things that are officially not allowed, you know you have crossed the boundary. Even if it's officially allowed, you know it's not ethical, you know it's not something you should do. These are frank opinions. So you are all senior, you are all postgraduate students, and you are going to be responsible for your work, not me. So you should be ready for people to make comments on your work. Yes, any other comments? Oh, are you satisfied or not? Let's see.
Yes, we are satisfied. 100%.
Yes, sorry, sir. So basically, what you said, Prof, is that it now behoves on the researcher to be able to determine when he or she is crossing the boundary, because he or she should know. Would that be the summary of what you said, sir?
Yeah, you should know. You should know. And if you don't know, ask questions. If you go to the archives and you're not sure whether you can photocopy a document or not, ask. It's not beat you for asking. But, sometimes, and it's the thing about conscience, sometimes the thing that would have been allowed, if we ask questions, we wouldn't know and would have done it illegitimately. So if you take your phone to the archives and you scan a document without getting approval, without getting permission, you are not sure whether what you have done is illegal or not. But meanwhile, if you had asked the question, you asked, say, sir, can I scan this document? Say, no, I just say yes. And you now realize that, I didn't have to go illegal, actually. many times by not asking questions, we do something illegal, which is not acceptable. That's if you are in doubt, ask. If you are in doubt, ask. You are supposed to be the ultimate judge. Your conscience is supposed to tell you what you are doing is right or wrong, except you don't have a conscience. Your conscience is supposed to tell you whether what you have done is acceptable or not, except you don't have a conscience.
Or not.
Yeah. When we cross the back, it's like the Yoruba proverb. When you cross into another man's farm, you will know now. When you cross your father's boundary into another man's farm, you will know. You may pretend not to know, but you do know. And in any case, your father knows where the boundary of his farm is.
Yes.
So, but many times we pretend as if we don't know.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Any other comments, questions? It's not just
Thank you so
questions,
much for
comments.
today, sir. I don't know if you
Okay,
can hear me, now, sir.
you can hear you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. The network has been disturbing, but thank God I'm able to get some. So I would like to ask that it might have been treated, but I just want to clarify. I want to be sure. In the archive, we have pictures, we have audio visuals, we have recordings, we have audio. Could those materials be said to be digital archives, sir?
So answer the question.
Sir?
Who wants to answer the question? What are digital archives? What are digital archives? That's what you're asking, if those materials are digital, could be called digital archives, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Even though they are available in the physical archive, like
Who wants to answer?
recordings, like audio visuals, like videos that are presently in the archives.
Now, digital archives are not necessarily just digitized materials. Digital archives are holdings that are in digitized form and are made available electronically, mostly online.
Okay,
Okay?
sir.
Yeah. They're online. There could be digital archives in a regular archives.
Okay.
Yeah. There could be the digital section. It's like having the e-library in a library. You can see the
Yes,
physical one, and then there's a section called the e-library. The
yes, sir.
digital ones are the ones you can access electronically. But it's also good, mostly that there are things that you can access from anywhere in the world. It's not just enough to have a digital archive that is localized. The usefulness is just is limited.
Limited. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
If the access is localized, then it's unfortunately too limited. Most of the material you are talking about can be digitized and placed in an online platform. So there's online archive, there's digital archives, there's digital archive online. Okay, digital is digital. That is in electronic format. It's been digitized. But when it's online, is when it is made available without you having to be there physically. Just a moment. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Now, next week, our next session. Where is Adewale?
Uh, mm, online.
Eh? Is Adewale still sick? Okay.
Hello, sir.
Now, next week, yeah, Yeah. Who wants to ask a question or wants to make a comment? Is that Titilayo?
I think our network is bad.
Okay. Now, everyone is supposed to take us next week, but it's not online. Chifora Lubagwe, can you have your session next week on oral history?
Who, sir? Who is taking us next?
Hello?
You. Yes, sir.
Is Chifora, is that Benson?
Yes, sir.
I said Adewale is supposed to have our next session on qualitative research methods.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, on qualitative research methods. But it's not in class. And I don't want to score him 0 for not presenting.
Maybe we will inform him, sir. We will inform him, sir.
Please inform him. But Chifora Lubago is online and his own is supposed to be next.
Okay.
Can
Maybe
we take Chifora Lubago's oral history next week? His line is muted.
Online.
Yeah, it's online, but it's muted. Can he tell us?
Yeah.
Is anybody near him?
So I'm thinking probably he's not presently there on network issue.
Yeah.
He's talking now.
Chifora Lubago, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, sir.
Okay. Can you take your session next week?
Yes, sir. But
next week anyway.
Sir, is that my session on oral history?
Oral history, yeah, it's your specialty.
I don't know if it's my specialty, sir. Yes, I'll be prepared to take it, sir.
Okay. So we take oral history next week. It's supposed to follow from qualitative methods because oral history itself is a qualitative method. But Adewale is not online. So we'll take a session thereafter. Let me give the assignment to Stila or Benzi. Please contact Adewale to let him know that we are moving his session to upper week after Chief will have taken his own session on oral history. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Any other comments? So next week we'll take oral histories. I will share the discussion points online today, tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, so that you can also guide.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, to guide your write-up. And I also try to make some comments without undermining your presentation. So
thank you, sir.
Just to guide our discussion. So I'll send the guidelines, the discussion points to you, to the platform for the whole class.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So any other comments, questions? Okay.
None.
So, yeah. So we are through to our discussion on archives and libraries. It's not meant for us to have knowledge, but remember that you must be able to use them effectively. You must be able to navigate the resources that you need access to. You must understand the ethical implications of what you are doing. You must have a methodological understanding of what you are doing. And you know that whatever you are going to do with archives or libraries must be preceded by understanding of what you are trying to achieve with your research. So it's your research that will define the kind of archive you use, to decide the kind of library you use, to define the kind of materials you look for, both in the archives and in the library. And I beg you, respect the ethics of this profession.
Yes, sir.
Don't do my material by all, historian must get the material by all means. It's a border on illegality, which is not good enough. But be enterprising in trying to get your materials, go the extra mile, but please don't go the illegal mile. It won't pay you in the end. If there are no other comments, I'd like to wish you a very pleasant evening and a good rest of the weekend.
Thank
Okay?
you very much, sir. Same to you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the class, sir.
Thank
See you next week,
you.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Goodbye, sir.
Right.
Bye, sir.
Yeah.
Bye, sir. Bye, everyone.